I'll just wait 1 minute for everyone to go live. Check out all the dust in my workshop. It's
I
like
was noticing
everywhere. This isn't a grey beard. It's
dust.
It's dust. Yeah.
Hey Daniel, behind you, you have all your component drawers. So do
Yeah.
you have a label maker? Do you use like a label maker to?
So what's interesting is I have a label maker, and I used to use it for everything, but it's a real pain in the arse using it. So what I've started to do is write things on masking tape, and it just means it's really easy to change the drawers around. And so I'm doing that now. I think it looks nicer as well. I quite like the orange. But,
I need a label maker because my handwriting is terrible. Like if I write something on the labels, I'll never read it. Like I need a label maker.
Yeah, the label makers are fun. It's just every time I get, I think what you need to do is not buy a cheap one. Like with any tools, don't buy a cheap one. So I bought one which was okay, but every time I get it out, because it's every like 3 months, 6 months, I can't quite remember how to use it. So I've got to go through the instructions or fiddle with it a bit. Yeah, but there you go. That's my own problem. So anyway, welcome. I can see in the chat we've got Jimmy and Alan. Hello. Yeah, and if anyone hasn't been here before, this Guitar Builders Collective chat, we do a live stream every week. Normally, we just talk about guitar-related things that we happen to be working on or thinking on at the time, and that could be anything from tools to processes or anything. Left Andy's here as well. Fantastic. But yeah, recently one of the things we're doing is looking at some videos. Like last week we had Dweezil Zappa at NAMM looking at sharp guitars, and that was just such an interesting, innovative guitar that he was talking about. So we use that as a starting point of our conversation. And today we're going to talk a bit about Paul from Milehouse Studios when he was on Anderton's this week. I think it was this week. It came out just a few days ago, talking about the idea of taking a Squier and doing it up to be as good as a Fender. Telecasters, these are.
Custom shop.
Custom shop, yeah. So, yeah. So, like, massive price difference. I think one of the things I like about Paul, and for those of you that don't know about Paul's channel, he has a channel where he does build guitars as well. But one of the key things he does is he shows people how to set up guitars, how to make their guitars better. He does breakdowns of various guitars, cheap and more expensive, and just shows what they're like when they come either new or how you can just sort of improve what's their base components on there, because some of the guitars he gets are second hand as well. Yeah, it's fascinating, and I feel really like it's akin to some of the things we talk about. Yeah, so if you just quickly on a tangent, if you don't know us, Mark here, Mark Gutierrez on YouTube, your YouTube channel, correct me if I'm wrong in summing this up, Mark, is kind of a mix of very innovative things. So making guitars either like with CNC or 3D printing, or doing things like embedding a fuzz pedal in a block of resin so it glows. Yeah, I like that one. And of course, like making fretboards out of resin, including the fret wire, so it's all one piece. Yeah, but like breaking the rules, seeing what we need. Yeah, and I think we can come back to that, because some of the things that Paul and Danish Pete and Captain Lee, Captain Anderton talked about was I think just things that people expect in guitars and why that's not right. What you've read online isn't necessarily right, and what you have of your vintage ideals aren't necessarily the best. And just, yeah, very quickly, if you don't know my channel, I'm Devil and Sons Guitars, and yeah, I try to have videos that demystify how guitars work. So lots of really in-depth videos on setting up a guitar to make it easier for you to get the most out of your guitar, breakdowns of how the different parts work, and then a whole series of videos for people that like customizing guitars or even just building guitars. So it's all about finishing, staining and painting. Yeah, and this channel, we've got a link in the description to our archive. So in our archive, we've got 85 interviews, including Paul as one of them, which are about an hour and a half to 2 hours long. We're just in-depth chat with guitar builders, amp builders, guitar players and things like that. And now our weekly random live stream that we do. Hey, Eddie's in the chat. Hi, Eddie. I won't play the video. I won't play highlights of the video, but maybe I'll just put it on just in the background with no sound for the moment, just so you can get a bit of ambience
do that.
in the video. One thing before we talk directly about the video is early on in the video, Paul meant... Oh, something's gone wrong with my... I just got a double... Oh, something's gone wrong with my... Hold on. something's going on
I
with
just got a
my.
double.
Whoa! What a loop! That's like we're getting live. That's incredible. That's like live DJing. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, beatboxing. My new career. It's like that was almost like entering Google into Google. I shared the screen of myself chatting. Hey, let's just play a bit of it here. So the setup for the video was that Lee and Pete have blindfolds on, so they can't see the guitars. Paul's giving them 2 guitars, one at a time. One of them's the Squire, one of them's the custom shop Telly, and asking them to play them. And one of the things that comes very clear very quickly, I think Paul was hoping they wouldn't notice necessarily so much about the quality difference because they've been set up by him. And as we know, you can set up a cheap guitar to be brilliant. That they're just very knowledgeable about guitar. So straight away, Danish people was like, well, this has to be the Squire because it's got 10s on it. I can feel it's got 10s on it, which is a bit like someone with insider knowledge trying to cheat the code there, I thought a bit. And then they're talking about the difference in the necks. So Lee says, I know which one's the Squire because it's got a slightly thinner neck. They're also talking about the fretboard radiuses, although Paul pointed out that on the websites, the fretboard radius is described as one thing, but when you measure it, it's a different thing. So you can't really rely on that. It was quite interesting hearing them talk about it. The thing I wanted to focus on was, to start with anyway, was this idea of who their target audience is. So Paul, like on his channel, it's very much, I think, for the everyday player. As he said, 99% of people out there aren't really going to need the really expensive guitar. But then from Anderton's point of view, they're trying to sell guitars. I think one of the things they're looking at is people that do want to buy expensive guitars and why they want to buy expensive guitars. And one of the things that was pointed out was this idea that some people, if you're really good at playing, you will start noticing these differences. You will benefit from certain things that are different. And one of the things they talked about was that, yes, if you get a cheap guitar, you could firstly go and upgrade that guitar, but actually what might get you more benefit from them not upgrading the guitar, set up the guitar. One of the things that might get you more benefit than setting it up is this idea of just learning to play better, and then you'll get more out of it like that. So where do you spend your first bit of money on the guitar? Is it setting it up, upgrading certain bits, making it play better, or is it learning to play it better?
For sure, a setup, I would think, because a lot of beginner guitarists give up because the guitar is not responding the way they think it should. Maybe the action's too high, right? Or maybe they are getting that sort of like fret buzz. And I think if they had a properly set up guitar, they would probably stick with it more. So a statistic that I read was, you know how during the pandemic, we had a really huge, massive like volume peak in guitar sales? Those were beginner guitarists. And the statistic that I just read was only 10% of those people stuck with the guitar. So it's a very small percentage of people that actually stick with something new. And that could be because they were just buying cheap guitars that weren't properly set up.
And as Paul points out, this idea that I really loved was that guitars coming out of the factories aren't set up brilliantly for perfect playing. They're set up to sort of minimize the returns that you get on them. He was saying that a lot of the guitars that he has that come through his shop that he makes the videos on, often they have a nut that's a little bit too high. And ideally, if you're setting up, you'll cut those nut slots a bit deeper. The reason they're a bit higher is to help prevent string buzz. The action's a little bit higher because as Lee was saying, one of the things they notice about people sending back guitars is if it's got fret buzz, they worry about it. They worry that the guitar is broken because, as we often discuss, a guitarist, especially new guitarists, won't necessarily know that guitars are set up differently, that you can make those changes. You might just think it is broken or it is a problem.
Yeah. I mean, it would be wonderful if guitarists, could learn all these sort of basic routine things like setting up guitar. However, I think like fret leveling and crowning is like sort of an advanced feature. So if you do have a low fret that came from the factory, you're kind of like, you can't do that yourself if you're a beginner. Like, you got to take it to someone.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that so that idea of what do you do with you've got your first guitar, you're not spending £3,000 on it, spending a few £100, maybe £100. What's the first thing you do on it? And taking it to someone else to set it up is brilliant, because they can fix those problems. Paul suggested you can even buy the tools yourself and do it yourself. And that's one thing, like my channel is all about that. His channel is all about that. I think that's a brilliant thing to do. But maybe initially you want someone else to do it so you know what it should feel like. I have guitarists bring guitars in here to change, and some of them I don't have the guitarist come in. I have the guitar tech for a band who are off touring and playing festivals, and they bring the guitars in. The guitars aren't set up properly at all. And then you set it up and give it back to them, and they notice it's different. And they're just not, even like someone that's professionally playing all the time doesn't notice, doesn't know even that it could be better.
Yeah. But I mean, ideally, we want all these guitars to come from the factory properly set up. And clearly that's not happening.
I mean, I get that reason. I really like that suggestion Paul had as to why that's not happening. It's a sales thing, why it's not happening. But you know, I'm surprised shops don't do it, because I know some shops do set up the guitars that come through them.
Yeah, so like for example, Sweetwater has like a 23-point inspection before they even send you the guitar. So there's some shops that actually take, yeah, absolutely.
I was under the impression with what I was saying it would be just the small local shops, but that's great that a bigger shop can do that. I mean, like doing a basic setup and checking some things doesn't take that long, but you can get bogged down and spend ages on it, which is why I love people learning themselves, because then you can really hone in on making it right for you. Some of the things that I found interesting that Paul was talking about, which we've talked about a lot before, and which I'm not sure is something that the Anderton team necessarily considered when they were thinking about the difference of the guitars, is people's expectations of materials. Paul did that breakdown I've heard him talk about before about fretboard material, people arguing over which type of mahogany is the best type because which is harder, and etc. But actually, as he points out, it doesn't really matter which one is better out of those if you're looking for hardness, because they're all harder than rosewood. So it's a sort of null point. But because people have heard about this and read about it, in the way that we always talk about, if it's not made like it was in the 60s, lots of people hate it because it's not like it should be, because obviously that was the heyday of guitars and they haven't been improved on since. I don't know if you watched as well, Paul referenced a few times a video that Anderton's had made before he'd gone into the studio. So that was actually from, I think, December last year, December 2025, where they took an East Coast guitar and upgraded it. So they put lots of money into upgrading it. And at the end, they're talking about how much better it is to play, how much better it sounds, etc. But how the amount of money they put into it doesn't justify the improvement. Essentially, you could spend the cost of the original guitar and the cost of all the upgrades and buy a better guitar already. And that's totally buys into something that we've talked about before, which is when you're building en masse, you've got scale of economies and how much cheaper it is for those companies to have certain hardware. Like certain bridges, if you're buying them, even when I get them at trade discount, it's £300 or £400 for a bridge. But if you're buying however many you're buying to do a whole run of guitars, it's infinitely cheaper. So you're going to get much better value for money if you're buying it all in one go through a good
at scale. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I'm surprised that there's still cheap guitars. I'm like, when I say cheap, I mean like poorly set up, poor materials, that kind of thing. I'm surprised that still exists. We live in a day and age where we have automation, cheap labor overseas. Like, there's no reason why you need to ship out a guitar that is poorly set up or that has poor materials. Like, there's just no reason anymore except it's a choice, I think.
Yeah, I mean, so again, I'm just talking about Paul's channel because that's sort of basically what we do. He does getting guitars and breaks them down, and checks the fret ends on them, and I think that's becoming a less of a thing, that you are getting problems with those guitars, because as we've discussed before, even the manufacturers of cheap guitars know there's a lot of competition out there. So putting that extra bit of work in makes you not fall behind, not necessarily go ahead, but make sure you don't fall behind your competition.
On that note, I just have the chips in here real quick. And what separates this Chipson from all other Chipsons, you're not going to be able to see this on camera, are the fret nibs. So if you're familiar with Gibson guitars, Gibson actually has these things called fret nibs where the binding meets the fret, right? So they take time. So a human being has to go in there with a file and file in between the frets to get the binding down, but they leave the binding at the fret end. So you don't see fret ends, you see binding, and it's all fret nibs. And you never saw this with Chipsons back in the day, and now they're doing that. So that's telling me that, one, they're probably listening to consumers. They want a more authentic counterfeit, right? But they're putting the level and effort to do something like this that only Gibson does, these little fret nibs.
That's interesting. I was going to mention a moment ago, and this seems the perfect time. When was it? At some point when I first got into watching guitarists breaking down guitars on YouTube, it was Mike from China Guitar Skeptic CGS channel. It started off as basically, as far as I know, he coined the term Chibson. He did breakdowns of cheap Chinese guitars, and he broke them down, played them, talked about them, and as far as I remember, the quality wasn't as good back then, and definitely improved over the course of his channel. Unfortunately, he's passed away now, so we don't get his amazing content. But yeah, it's still out there to go back and look at, and it sort of reminds me of the things that Paul does, but not from the point of view of a luthier, but from the point of view of a player. And that take is slightly different because he wasn't necessarily taking the guitar completely apart, doing all the measurements. He was playing it, demoing it, and saying what it felt like and how it feels different. And I guess that's one of the things that was coming out from the Anderton team, because they're both, I mean, Danish Pete is an incredible player. Lee's played all his life, and you hear him play. He's a great player as well. When you're that level of playing, and you've played as many guitars as they must have done for all the demos, you're going to pick up all these minor things that people aren't going to pick up. I was saying off air to you, Mark, I know the difference in fretboard radiuses when I'm making them. I can see the difference and feel the difference, but I don't play guitar enough. I'm a bass player, really, and I play guitar a bit. You know, I learned to play guitar too many years ago. Yeah, it'd be 35 years I've been playing. I still play, but I don't play very often. And I couldn't necessarily tell you the difference with a fretboard radius of, say, 7 1/4 and 14, what the difference is to my playing, because I don't play enough on those to know what it affects me and which I prefer, for example.
Yeah, but some of those differences weren't minor. Some of them were major differences in the neck thickness, for example. So when you think about like the 50s Tele neck, that is the exact same size as a 50s Les Paul neck. They have the exact same profile. And I just heard this from Paul Reed Smith. He's like, we got a 50s broadcaster there and we have a 50s Les Paul. They have the exact same neck. Back in the 50s, that's just what they thought necks were like. Necks were just like that thick, right? So to see like the feel of 50s Telecaster neck and then a Squire neck, that's a huge difference. They didn't even need the blindfolds. Like, they were going to be able to tell no matter what. Yes,
yeah. I mean, that's one that basically Lee revealed. He said before this, he knew what the different sizes of necks would be. So that means he's going to know. He's going to be able to feel the difference. I'm not sure the sort of person that Paul's talking about when he says 99% of people don't need, or most people don't need that really expensive guitar. I think most players, talking about most players being on a bell curve, being not brilliant, won't notice the difference, especially if they haven't got that many guitars. I absolutely understand if you've got money to spend, why you would spend lots of money on a guitar. But if you've got lots of money, if you don't have lots of money to spend, it is, I think, better buying that cheaper guitar and doing these things to it and learning how to do them.
It's not quite 99%. Let me give you some more statistics.
Yeah, I love this. I mean, Paul, even in the video, Paul said, I don't know why I keep saying 99%, right. But I like that.
So like this past fiscal year, let's just say 2024, 2025, right? Fender Musical Instruments Corporation, right, FMIC, pulled in about $990 million. You can round up to $1 billion. Let's just round up to $1 billion, right? Okay. They have 30% of the global market share, right? 45% of their revenue of that 1 billion came from the Squire line. So that's a little bit more, and then it goes down. So like 45% came from the Squire line. Then I think it's like the classic vibe. I think the Hello Kitty went viral this year. So last year. So that is there. And then it's like the Player Series. And then it's like Charvel Jackson EVH. And then the last thing that brings them in revenue is the Fender Custom Shop. It's like the lowest volume they have. So 45% of their global revenue, which is 999 million, comes from the Squire line. Isn't that crazy?
That is, that goes back to what you were saying earlier about how many people picked up guitars, say during COVID, picked up guitars as a beginner and don't progress. But also it tells me very much about what I think at the moment as a independent builder trying to sell guitars, which is people don't have the money to spend on more expensive guitars now. Like when I first started building, I was selling much more guitars, and I can't really sell guitars now. I'm struggling, and that might be because of my sales technique, might be because of the quality of my guitars or what they look like. But I think it's because people aren't buying second or third guitars. People haven't got the money to spend on an extra guitar. It's a luxury item. Yeah. So maybe if you are buying another guitar, especially as there's so much out there to help you, you could buy another Squire and do it up. Maybe that's what people are doing. There's so many companies now that sell good quality components that you can just swap out. Like even like we talked about Geica before. Geica tuners just come in such a crazy range of colors now. Even the bridges you can just swap like for like and they fit. Although actually quite often they're better quality than what you get on a cheaper guitar.
Yeah. They're beautiful. I just saw the new Geiger headless bridges, and they come in like different colorways. You can get like green and red. It's like, whoa.
I mean, I think they do good stuff, I think.
Yeah. But you're right. It's like people can get a second guitar easily, like a Squire, and set it up, change the whatever and mod it. But I don't know. It's not for everybody, I guess. Some people, I think, do want to tinker. Some people don't.
So what I found frustrating about that whole video with the Anderton team is I wish they just had the same thing, exactly the same thing going on, but the person playing it wasn't a professional or someone that played guitars all the time, was just somebody who is an enthusiast, and ask them to feel the difference.
That is brilliant. Yeah, you need someone on the other end of the spectrum. You need that perspective.
It's like I always think at the Olympics, doing the 100 meters, I should be there. So you can just see how good these people are running against someone who just can't run or can't run at professional standards. I saw a video recently of a professional swimmer swimming against just non-professionals, and they had basically a length head start, and he still caught up and overtook them all. It's just incredible how much better they are. And that's the same with the guitarists, I think. I really buy into, though, what Danish Pete said, which isn't something we talk about so much, which is the importance of learning to play. As you learn to play, you understand the guitar better as well, and what it feels like, and therefore what you need. Because I always talk, whenever I'm setting a guitar up for someone, and that's actually, to counter this, Danish Pete said something great and something that annoyed me a bit. He said, if you have lots of guitars, you send them all to the same luthier, they're all going to come back feeling the same, because that luthier is going to set them up the same. I always talk to the clients about what they need from a guitar, and talk about the importance of having a different feel to each guitar. You don't know what you need from a guitar, I don't think, until you know how to play well.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, some of the basics, what you like a bit more. Like someone sent me a bass to do some work on, and it was only their second bass, and they didn't really know what they wanted. I was asking, what strings do you want on it? He wasn't really sure, because he's only ever bought one set of strings before. So I got 3 different sets of strings for different basses, so he could try them out to feel the difference, because you don't know until you've done it. And when you're new at something, how can you have that experience, really?
That's super nice of you to do that.
Yeah, well, he was an old school friend that hadn't seen for ages. It's one of those weird stories where it was him and someone else that I also went to school with. Both gave me some basses to do up, some Aria Pros, 70s Aria Pros. I had 3 of them to do up for them, and it's great fun doing it. But there's no pressure, no rush. So it was always going on in the background. I've had them finished for over a year, and we haven't managed because they don't want to send them to them. They want to come and collect them so they can see me, but we just haven't managed to sort out a date. Clearly they don't want them that much, but
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I like your idea of getting like a beginner player to test those guitars, because a beginner player wouldn't know the difference between that custom shop and the Squire that's been set up by Paul. Like they wouldn't feel the nuances that are there or understand what to look for.
So, all right. So, Paul, if you're watching, I messaged him earlier, said, do you mind if we talk about him? He said, not at all, but he'd be in bed by now, which is fair enough. As you know, I'm normally in bed by now. We do it this time because it works well to get people from different countries in. If you're new here, sometimes we have people from Australia as well. So if you are watching, Paul, I know sometimes you have other YouTubers on that come play, and you've got some friends that come and play who play really well. Maybe you need some sort of mediocre players, mediocre guitarists to come on and do your experiments with.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, because I remember when I was a beginner guitarist, like I remember like going to buy guitar strings at the guitar store, and I would buy like the Ernie Ball Slinkies, and they came in different like string gauges, but I didn't know what string gauges were. I just saw there's a purple pack, a yellow pack, like the colors. I'm just like, I'll take the yellow one. Like I didn't even know what to look for. I was really like naive, I guess, and I think a lot of beginners are that way. And if that's just one story about string gauges, like I can't even imagine the other things that were going on. Like, did I even know what a truss rod was back then? Probably not.
Yeah, well, I did the same. I remember buying my strings. So for my Spanish guitar, I bought the strings my teacher told me to buy, and I've only ever used them. I've never tried anything else. And I remember going to shops to buy guitar strings, and when I bought my first bass strings as well, I think I was buying Ernie Balls. I also was getting Super Slinkies, but I think they had a 1-line description on the packet. And based on the 1-line description, I was like, that's what I need. That's my jam, that description of what I think guitar strings should be. And I can't remember if I mentioned this last week to you, but I just had a guitar through the Hagstrom that I stripped and restained, and the person that plays it all tuned down to D-tuning, D standard. So it's all down a step, and he has 11s on it. And I was playing it, and it was so much fun to play. And I'm not sure if the reason it was so much fun to play is because sorry, I've just been told I spelled Milehouse incorrectly. God, I've got this thing about spelling people's names correctly. I spelled Zappa wrong last week. Anyway, I'm not sure if I need to change to 11s now or just play with everything tuned down a bit, because it was so nice to play.
Was it the tone or was it the feel?
So it wasn't plugged in when I was playing it most of the time. It was the feel of it. It just felt...
Did it feel more slinky?
It felt like right to me. Yeah. So yeah, I felt like a bend thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you basically that slinky feeling, like if you take it just a standard, like Hendrix did that, right? You drop a half step, right? You go flat, and you get that kind of slinky feel. Van Halen did it. You drop a half step or a whole step, like that kind of cool feel. Like you just got a down tune. You take any guitar, it doesn't have to be 11s.
Yeah, but I used to down tune, but it didn't feel like that. Or let's don't remember it like that. Yeah, no, like I would say maybe it was on the Load album from Metallica. They had a few songs that might have been tuned down, and I started doing it then. I used to play a lot of Metallica. Yeah. Can someone in the chat just tell me where I spelt Paul's name wrong? Is it on the thumbnail or is it in the title or something? Let me know and I'll make it change somewhere. Yeah, and I still, here's a great thing that happened in the video. Danish Pete took off his mask, and suddenly he was like, this one, now these sound better. This sounds better than it did with the mask on. And Paul said, you're listening with your eyes. I still passionately believe that what a guitar looks like affects the way you play it, and affects what you think it's like.
it's not just like that eye sense. It's like every sense. Like
Yeah.
how you connect to the guitar is going to make you play differently. It's everything. It's so multifaceted. Like there's so many variables. Like I don't even know if there's a point in like debating or talking about it. Just like if you connect with something, play it.
Yeah. Yeah. So another thing Lee talked about was the idea of guitars over time. The idea that he moved house, and when he was moving house, things were in storage, blah blah blah, and the Squire was the one that needed the most setup and changing afterwards because it had moved during the movement. And I guess that's something that it's really hard to tell when you're setting something up with a cheaper material wood, how that's going to be affected over time. But I honestly don't. I mean, it's the neck. It's the neck, right? I don't think there's much difference really in the neck materials between some of the cheaper guitars and the more expensive guitars. It's all the other things that go with it that add the cost, not just the wood. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. So one thing I want to ask you, Mark, as someone that does collect more expensive guitars, I know part of it is the collecting bug and wanting a certain type of guitar, but what is it that you think makes the vintage guitars special to you?
Oh, there's a lot of things, but one is like as guitar players, like we are addicted to gear acquisition, right? Like we just got to have new guitars, new gear, new guitars. And from a financial perspective, they're not good investments. Like guitars are not good investments. They do not appreciate in value, they depreciate, right? And so if you want to sort of like satiate that bug, if you want to like fill that hole in your heart, right? Buying new gear. If you buy vintage, you have a higher possibility of that guitar appreciating. Like there's just a higher, because time is your ally when it comes to vintage guitars. You wait 50 years and anything now is going to be valuable, right? And so I'm just trying to get that head start. So yeah, I buy vintage. It basically fills that hole in my heart for gear acquisition, and it's not a bad investment because I can always turn around if I needed to and make that money back. So that's the one side of it. But then you have to think the guitars were built differently for good or worse, right? Depending on the era. And the wood was different, right? When you think about like, keep in mind, Brazilian rosewood, nobody can mill that anymore. You can't go out and get Brazilian, like today, it's like a rare species. You cannot chop a Brazilian rosewood tree down anymore, right? And well, was Brazilian rosewood that good? It was great. Like Brazilian rosewood was awesome. It's so different than like the other like Indian rosewood. It's different.
I'm going to stop you.
Side by side. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to stop you and ask you about that. So I think most players wouldn't notice the difference or at a certain level. But what is it? Because I think sometimes also visually they look different. But what is it that is the difference that you notice that you're talking about here?
For me, like even when I was a kid, when I was like a really beginner guitarist and I had Brazilian rosewood guitars, the main big difference for me is not tone. Like it has nothing to do with tone, right? There's this oil content in it, like a natural oil content that makes it like it's almost like ebony, but it's not ebony, obviously. It's like just an oily wood that feels good under your fingers. And I know that's not like it has nothing to do with sound or tone, and any fretboard can be oiled, I guess, right? But like there's something natural about that's really, really cool. And it's why it's so like desired. It's a desired wood, right? And then you have to think about like Honduran mahogany, which no one really uses anymore. Like Honduran mahogany was something they used in the 50s, right? And all that was old growth. It was all old growth mahogany. And these days, like Paul said, like everything is just basically accelerated in growth. Like all these trees are being grown extremely fast to get them to chop them down and to mill them. So the wood is completely different too. I mean, everything about vintage guitars is different. Again, for better or for worse, but for the most part, they're just better investments.
So sort of on that note, one of the things that I like about the new guitars is not having, well, this isn't true. I don't see why people should use bone nuts, for example. I don't know why we should use endangered woods. I don't know why we shouldn't use, as you have in your guitars, and I've since tried, using bamboo, using sustainable woods in guitars. But I totally understand that when you're making guitars out of these things that are not common for guitars, it's more expensive to buy those materials in, makes the guitars more expensive. And as you're totally saying, that resale value's gone with a new guitar, especially an experimental guitar. So I buy into what you're saying about the value of a guitar depreciating if you're into that sort of thing. If you're just buying it to play, I also understand what you're saying about the vintage elements, but I don't know if that appeals to me so much. I'm going to have a crap anecdote here, which is I heard Brian Wampler talking about tube amps, and I may be misremembering this story slightly, but he has a son that plays guitar, or it was a young one of his son's friends, and he took them somewhere to play through a proper big rig with a tube amp on it, expecting this person to be blown away by the quality of it, and they didn't seem more impressed in any way than having a Kemper modeler really on hand. And it just feels like that that nostalgia adds to something to it. Like we just said, when Danish Pete could see the guitar, suddenly it felt different to him. Maybe seeing a tube amp makes you feel that it's different. I mean, physically, we often say when you're standing in front of a big amp, you can feel the air moving, right? In the way you might not if you're playing through a modular, through little PAs or something in front of you when you're playing on stage. But I wonder if that nostalgia for vintage guitars is going to die out. I won't will it?
I don't think so. But what you're talking about, a couple of weeks ago, John Mayer posted that video of himself on social media where he was in the studio and he had the engineer in the studio switching back and forth between his Neural DSP plugin and his real rig, and he couldn't tell the difference. And this is like John Mayer in the studio, and they're switching back and forth. He's like, I can't tell the difference. That's the point we're at now with like amps, right? And I remember that when it happened with like digital photography, when it's like, oh, emulsion film was the only way to go, and digital cameras couldn't keep up. And then suddenly it's just like digital cameras and sensors surpassed silver emulsion, right, in terms of quality and stuff. And I think we're at that threshold now where not even John Mayer can tell the difference. And so we're gonna have all these kids, like you said, who grow up only knowing the simulation of the tube amp.
Yeah. It's like looking at when they're on Word documents, they look at the save button. I heard someone describing it as a food dispensing machine but it's a floppy disk, but they don't know what floppy disks are. So to them it looked like a food dispenser. And also, the modelers, I'm assuming at some point they're going to become quite cheap. Really, people will be doing it through their computers, right? It's going to be cheap. And also, as the quality of cheap guitars goes up and they stay cheap and affordable because that's their target audience, lots of people aren't going to need, unless they're into that vintage idea or the named brand, they might not turn to Fenders and Gibsons. They might just turn to other models by those cheaper brands because they know the quality is good. The quality is what they need. Maybe even those cheap brands will become brands that they're sought after. Like, I remember White Stripes playing cheaper brands and suddenly they're all really expensive.
I mean, I think White Stripes is the exception. But if you think about like every single young indie band, they're all playing Fenders. They're all playing offsets.
Yes, but the reason they're all doing that is because Fender give them to them. Like
that's not going to stop. Yeah,
of course that's not. You're right. That's not going to stop. That's why Fender give it to them. Like the guitars that I had to set up. Actually, this is a good example. The guitars I had to set up for that band that were playing a festival, and it was very last minute. They came in. They'd all been given to them by they were Jacksons. They'd all been given to them by Jackson, and they all had issues with them. But they play them because they're given to them for free. And some of the issues they had with them are caused by the way they play them. So I don't know the science behind this, but I know that some people sweat differently than other people. I know that they're playing big venues and then quickly packing up and moving to the next festival, so it doesn't get cleaned properly. But the Floyd Rose on one of them had totally rusted up. Like I had chemicals that de-rust things. I had my ultrasonic cleaner. I couldn't clean it up. It was so bad. And that was like a $2,500 guitar. So even a $2,500 guitar with good components played by the wrong person, not the wrong, or person that has this thing and doesn't look after it in the right way, means it's not going to last. But my point was, that was a $2,500 guitar, and they know that it doesn't matter if it gets fucked up because Fender would just give them another one. So that, I think their current plan is they'll play the guitars, and when they get to a point where it's not much point repairing them, they just ask for a new one from Fender and give them away to their fans, which I thought was quite a cool thing to be doing. Yeah. I mean, a fan would love a Floyd Rose that's rusted by their sweat, I'm sure. But yeah, my point there was, though, even those expensive guitars with the more expensive components on aren't really lasting for that band. They're not. They could just be
they're cheaply made. I think it was Owen last time saying that he saw some Floyd Rose that was like milled, right? Like CNC milled. Like, if that is the case, like that would not tarnish, right? It's because whatever metal or zinc or alloy that they're using these cheap Floyd Roses, like it's just cheap metal. They're not expecting them to go on tour, probably.
And as we've talked about so many times, there are boutique things that you can buy, boutique parts that you can upgrade that are so much better. But big companies not going to use them because unless things, I think you gave the example, maybe you or Owen, of Evertune and how Evertune became a thing that everyone now wants. But to start with, they weren't that thing. But people don't want to see a different looking bridge, an alternative to Floyd Rose. In that East Coast video where Anderton's upgraded it, Lee put on was it a Vega Trem on his? I think it was a Vega Trem, and he was saying it was an absolutely amazing bridge, and I don't think he'd used it before, and he loved it. He was implying it was one of the best floating bridges like that around. Those sort of things are great upgrades for a guitar, but they're not going to come on a factory guitar because those factories aren't going to use them, because the price point's going to go up for them if they do that, and it's going to look different enough that their clients aren't going to want to buy it. Yeah.
All true.
So one thing that I wanted to mention, sort of slightly off topic, was what guitarists expect from a guitar and what they use. So this idea of upgrading your guitar, or a guitar that's a bit more expensive that's got all these things on it. I've got a guitar that's just come in for me to refinish. So all I'm doing is refinishing it, and we were chatting about it online because I was changing the knobs on the guitar as well. And the guy said to me that actually he's doing it for a friend. The friend only ever plays the guitar with one setup. So it's got humbucker in the neck, humbucker in the bridge, single coil in the middle. It's a 5-way select switch and a split coil toggle switch, which makes both the humbuckers at the same time go from humbuckers to single coils. And this person only ever plays with the neck as a single coil and the middle single coil together, with the tone rolled all the way down. So basically what I was thinking there is, you don't really need that other humbucker. You don't really need the first humbucker. You just need a single coil there. You don't need a tone control, really. You could just have it set as something and just leave it. There's all these bits in it that are not necessary for him. And if I was building a custom guitar for him, I'd suggest not having all of those things in. But then when you have a guitar that's got these humbuckers in, then I think they're quite good ones. There's a cost to that, which he doesn't even need in that guitar because it's not right for him. I don't know where I'm going there. I'm going with the idea that when you buy something off the shelf, it's going to have these things in it that you don't need necessarily or don't use. We often talk.
Would a custom that met all his criteria be cheaper or more expensive than that off the shelf?
Yeah, I mean, he's spending quite a lot of money upgrading bits on this and me stripping it and painting it. But it's his guitar that he likes and wants that done to, which I totally buy into. Totally buy into that. It's gonna totally reduce the resale value because part of the paint job on it is going to make it very unique. No one else is going to want it, basically. But it's for him. He's doing it for him, or he's doing it for his friend. So that's why we do it. But yeah, I think I was just trying to rationalize in my head while I was thinking about it. What is it about certain guitars that people like? And sometimes, you know, we don't use all the parts in it. We wouldn't want them. But like if you've got a Les Paul and it just had a bridge pickup and one volume, it would look weird, wouldn't it? I think it would look cool. But yeah, you wouldn't be able to sell that. You wouldn't be able to sell that unless some big guitarist, that was his signature model and everyone loved him. And that's
that exists. Jared James has
really?
Yeah, he's got the single P90 in the bridge position, one volume control. It's an Epiphone though. It's a signature model is an Epiphone, but it looks gorgeous. Like single pickup Les Pauls just look cool, like you said, but it's not for everyone, I guess.
Oh yes, I've got it here. Amazing. Right. I'm gonna see if I can get a good picture of it to share. Let's do the share then. I'm so tired. I'm just pushing all the wrong buttons. We're going to go into another loop. Sorry, everyone. We're going to another loop. That looks absolutely killer to me.
Yep.
It'd be interesting to know your facts about Fender, how that relates to Gibson with Epiphone.
Oh, I got the Gibson facts.
Yeah.
But getting back to this guitar, this is a Jared James' signature model, and he's a very popular young guitar player. He's extraordinary, so he's got a lot of popularity. It makes sense they gave him a signature model. It looks unique and cool. Yeah, it's just like single pickups. Look killer.
There's something about it that looks really vintage as well. Look, the back of that looks like an early Les Paul in some ways. Not an early jazz. It looks like some sort of jazz guitar to me. Like the almost classical binding around the edge. Oh, it's very smart. And a wraparound. Nice. That is proper simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
It does look like someone's forgotten. It looks a bit like AI's tried to make a Les Paul and left bits out. But they've actually succeeded in making something better. Nice. Hey, talking about young guitarists and music, I maybe it's going to become a thing, but I mentioned Nova Twins before and how I like them. I heard something just before we went online today, and it was half a song. So I've no idea if this is going to become my new favorite band, or if I'm going to listen to it 3 times and never want to listen to it again. But it's a band, a J metal band, Japanese metal band called Maximum the Hormone. And I heard a song by them called, I mean, that's some weird translation maybe, or that is the name of the band, Maximum the Hormone. And the song I heard was called Alien. Absolutely crazy. Brilliant guitar playing, crazy vocals. I think it's going to be my thing.
I just ran into a cool band that I found recently, and they're from France, and they have like a French name, so I could not pronounce it even if I tried. But what's extraordinary is the guitarist plays a microtonal guitar, like microtuning. Like, so I went down the rabbit hole with this. I might build one, but if you can imagine like a fretted guitar, and just imagine an extra fret between every fret, right? So you'll have like, I don't know, 48 frets or something like that. And they're playing this kind of like loop, like pedal loops based music. It's just a drummer and a guitarist, and microtonal, and it just works. Oh, and not only is it a microtonal guitar, but he's got the double neck, so he's got a bass, right? And then he's got the microtonal guitar. And I'm just fascinated by the tones he's getting out of the microtonal guitars, because and I tried playing it on one of my guitars. Like I tried like fretting a note, fretting the next note, and then sort of bending the first note. And there's a note in there. Like there's an extra note in between each fret. Like it's there. You just got to put the fret there. So I'm like totally into this now. I might build a microtonal fretboard.
If anyone can make a microtonal guitar and then do an amazing demo of it, it'd be you. You should definitely do it.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I'm gonna try.
I'm thinking of your like great guitar build off with the curved frets and how brilliant you made that sound. I think this is the opportunity to experiment creatively with something new.
Sweet.
Would you, with your approach to experimenting with something like that, would you make a neck with microtonal frets and put it on a guitar you've already got, or would you think that this is in need of a whole new design, a new project?
That always depends. Like, if I want to quickly knock out the idea, then it just has to be a neck. Because making a custom guitar takes a long time. Like, it takes me months and months and months. And so if I want to try out a microtonal neck, I don't want to wait 9 months to play it. I can just, build a neck and then put it on any body, right? So for this idea, I don't know what direction I take. I don't know. Yeah.
I feel like you should use this as an opportunity to try the Parker Fly stick-on frets and just stick them on in between what you've already got.
That's a good idea too. Yeah, like it's so much easier. But again, I went down the rabbit hole. I dug into like microtonal tuning and the geometry that's required for putting the frets in. And so I have that available to me, so I could put that in CAD and build it in my CNC if I needed to. So it wouldn't be hard for me to just CNC the fretboard and then fret it as normal.
Oh yeah, fair enough. Yeah. What you need then is, sorry, I'm just going off on a tangent here. You need a guitar neck where the fretboard can clip on and off. So you can clip on your microtonal, clip on your normal one, clip on your scallop frets, half fretless, half fretted, whatever. And they don't have to be real frets. They could just be, can you CNC the frets? Could you make an aluminium neck fretboard that you drop in and off?
You'd be
that'd be a pain, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I'm seeing guys use like zip ties as frets. Like that's a really cheap alternative, right? Just use zip ties.
Yeah. What's the instrument that does that? That I saw that someone in the Great Guitar Build-Off built an instrument that was not a guitar, but it had zip ties as the frets, and I cannot remember what the instrument was called. It was amazing.
Zip ties are tough. Like it would take a long time to wear through a zip tie, and they're easily replaceable. Like they're cheap as heck.
Yeah. We were talking last week. If you haven't seen last week's one, we talked about Shark guitars and their frets and how they have frets that you can adjust the height on each one, which to me seems over-engineered, but maybe has a benefit for certain things. But yeah, they could have saved all that time and research and just put zip ties on. Yeah, then you can change the color of the frets as well. And when it wears out, just swap it straight off.
Easy.
Yeah. I'm busy 3D printing parts for like I'm selling these sanding blocks and stuff. But someone left a comment, so I'm changing the point totally here. Someone left a comment because I use PLA Tough. So PLA Tough Plus from Bamboo Lab is way more durable than a lot of the other materials they have. It's like up there with ABS, but it's not as fumey for my workshop to print in. But someone was saying, but surely that's just going to melt when you're sanding with it, because the temperature that this melts at is lower than ABS, for example. It's higher than normal PLA, but only slightly. So they were saying, why don't you use P-TEG? So I've got P-TEG. Is that how it's pronounced? P-TEG. So I've printed one off in that, and I'm going to do some experiments and video it to test it. That's but awesome. According to Ray at Tasmaniac Guitars, who professionally works with 3D printing, he was saying that the temperature that you're going to need to get up to cause this to melt or have any sort of problem with it or deforming, it's very unlikely you're going to get that when you're sanding a neck, because you don't sand necks like that. But I'm going to try my best to sand as aggressively and as fast for as long as I can with this, see what happens.
I can offer something here. I just recently 3D printed something as well for my next project. And heat is also involved, Daniel, so you'll get a kick out of this. I just literally finished wiring it like an hour before this call. But I built a tube pedal
Oh my God, that looks amazing.
I 3D printed the case. So I don't have my M4 screws yet, but you can see there's my input and output, power, tubes, pot, and the knob. My M4 screws will go here. But the whole case is 3D printed, and I basically played it like an hour before this call. It works, except for my LED doesn't work, right? I don't know. I didn't wire my LED right, but the tubes get hot. I mean, I'm running 12 volts to the tubes, and it's just the heaters going, right? And when I turned it off, I was like, I felt heat, but the case is just fine. So I'm going to run off extensive tests, just like you, to see like extended play, how hot these tubes get, and whether or not the case warps or melts. I'll let you know.
Oh, nice. We'll presumably have a video of that soon as well.
Mm-hmm.
Barry said it reminds me of Doctor Who vibes.
Nice.
Yeah, I did something recently though in the heat. What was it? Oh yes, I remember what it was. I made I'll grab it. I've shown this before, so sorry to repeat myself. And thank you anyone that's still watching. We've been talking for much longer than normal. I made this. So this is just a pick guard that I cut up and stuck some wood on, so that basically what I can do is put my pots in here and my switch in there, so they're inside the gap. Then I put that down, and sorry, I've explained that wrong. I put the pots on this side, and the knobs would go on that side, and the switch would go on that side. So I can put it down. It's all in the right place for me to solder up. Brilliant, really good, because it's all in the right place. It stands up, nothing wobbles, everything's very stable, and I can screw it in place to make sure it all holds it perfect. So I've tried 3D printing one of these, but as soon as you put the heat, like if you're touching the back of the pot with your soldering iron to get a lot of heat in it, it started melting the plastic there. So that was an example of where the 3D print didn't work for me. Again, maybe that worked with a different temperature, but I don't want to risk it. It's just not. It's not
And
worth it. That was PLA. Yeah, maybe I should try it with a different one. But yeah, I mean, one of the points of doing these is I do them for me to use, but I've already got one, so I don't really need more. But I like having the files for other people that I've been selling for other people. Alan said, "Thank you, Alan." He's printing some of my sanding blocks, but I don't want to have a file that someone can use where they're just going to have problems with it. It's not.
Yeah, makes sense.
It's not good to put something out in the world that's not working, not right. On that note, we'll put this out in the world for people to watch. I have lost track of days, but I think next Friday I'm still good for this. If you are, Mark, and anyone else that's watching, but at some point soon, I think it's the last Friday of this month of February. I will be in Birmingham getting ready for the Birmingham Guitar Show, which I'm not exhibiting at. Paul is, so I'm looking forward to meeting him there. Alan in the chat's coming as well. Owen, who, if he's still there, is coming. There's a group of us going who have all chatted online, met a couple of you at shows before, and I'm going as a punter, so we can hang out, be brilliant. I'm really looking forward to that. One of the things I'm most excited about being a punter is something I can't do when I'm showing at the shows, is I can just spend some time playing other people's guitars. It's going to be brilliant. I'm really looking forward to that. Yeah, get to see what we all look like in 3D, said Alan.
I'm totally jealous, guys. Totally jealous.
Yeah, well, one day it's on my bucket list. Is a trip to Austin.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I think it'll be a way off. I need to sell a lot more of these to be able to afford a flight. There you go. Great. All right. Take care. See you, Mark. Thanks again.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.